Hello and welcome, folks. We got some members here from Token Games Podcast. I'm your friendly neighborhood Zach Stat Pearson, and today I'm joined by Corey Troy of House VA, and we're going to talk about the Resident Evil franchise as a whole. Oh, and let me just put an asterisk on that real quick. I'm not talking about the fucking live action movies because they're pieces of shit and abominations. All right, well, first off, Corey, why don't you tell me how you got into Resident Evil?
I believe I first played RE4 when I was growing up, and then I got stuck. I didn't go back to it for about 12 years.
Damn.
And then RE7 came out, and I played that. I loved it. And then I went back and I started playing some of the older stuff.
That is a very fucking rare journey. Not gonna lie. I normally only see that with like Devil May Cry. Oh yeah, I played 4, so I went back in time to play the rest. Hey, skip 2. Or, oh, I played Devil May Cry 5. Man, I really loved it, but I'm going to go try the other ones too. Hey, skip 2. And DMC.
I forgot. I forgot. Me and my brother played 5 growing up. I got a little bit through 4, and then me and my brother beat 5, and then 7 came out. And then I went back. Take that back.
How tall is your little brother?
I think he's about an inch or two shorter than me.
God damn it. You're the tallest person in your family, aren't you?
I think so.
Fuck you. The rest of us would like some height. Alright, so as far as me, well, this is going to be an interesting story, but I'll keep it short because, you know, this isn't the segment they really give a shit about. Well, for me, outside of Resident Evil commercials, they were actually directed by, I believe, Bram Stoker, or no, not Bram Stoker, the creator of zombie movies. I can't remember his name, but
Rob.
No, not Rob Zombie. But someone just randomly mentioned that there was a game where the director of zombie movies was directing the commercials for Resident Evil 2. Not even realizing there was a 1. Now, at the time, I didn't have a PlayStation. But eventually, over time, I did get a PlayStation. And I played the game, and I got bored with it because nothing about it scared me. But at that point in time, those graphics were already extremely dated. And I was annoyed by tank controls naturally. However, I did end up picking it up after a friend tried to convince me to, quote-unquote, don't be such a pussy. When Resident Evil 4 came out on the GameCube, let me tell you, when Resident Evil 4 came out on the GameCube, a revolution in gaming happened. And that's just me being mild. And from there, I went forwards and backwards in time in various Resident Evil games. I have played over 80% of the catalog, including some things that occasionally, you know, don't get released in America. So in some regards, I'm somewhat ahead of the curve, however you want to look at it. But also, I'm also aware of other creators that a lot of people forget about. For instance, Mr. F. That name may sound a little bit weird, but see, here's the thing. Even though Shinji Mikami gets a lot of credit for Resident Evil, he didn't do anything alone. In fact, also listed under the director credits was a dude by the name of, and I'm going to pull it up. Yeah, Tokuro Fujiwara. Now, Tokuro Fujiwara, the reason that a lot of people don't know him as well as they do is because he's used other aliases. The one I know about is Professor F, but Tokuro Fujiwara also directed Ghost and Goblins, Bionic Commando, and another survival horror game that wasn't Resident Evil. Also, fun fact, Shinji Mikami, they felt would be good for directing these games because he hates scary movies or something like that. Or one of the directors got the role of Resident Evil direction because they said he was terrified of scary movies, which I find that hilarious. But yeah, let's get into the topics. All right, or segments. Sorry. First up, the first segment is going to be a little bit of an order story and talking about the early games and just going through how it's progressed. Second segment was going to be when did fan deviation start, and you know, was doing what they did worth it in the long run. Segment 3, the one everyone's gonna love, best games to play in the franchise and why. other than, oh yeah, I like it because it's fun. I hate when people describe the reason to play a game because they thought it was fun. And our final segment is, can the image be fixed for the franchise, or rather, can fan respect and unification happen again or last? And that one's going to take some detailing, so yes, glad we got it last. George Romero. Yeah, George Romero directed some of the Resident Evil 2. Actually, all the live action Resident Evil 2 commercials. Alright, so as far as a little bit of an origin story, we're just going to literally recite what's on Wikipedia. Oh, wait. You do it as a narrator. You ain't got to do a cowboy, but do it as a narrator.
Resident Evil, known in Japan as Biohazard, is a Japanese horror media franchise created by Shinji Mikami and Tokuro Fujiwara, and owned by the video game company Capcom. The franchise focuses on a series of survival horror games, includes live-action films, animated films, comic books, novels, audio dramas, and merchandise. The story follows outbreaks of zombies and monsters created by mainly the Umbrella Corporation. The first video game, Resident Evil, was released in 1996. The franchise has grown to encompass numerous sequels of various genres incorporating elements of action, exploration, and puzzle solving, and storylines inspired by horror and action film. Resident Evil has been credited with popularizing survival horror and as well as repopularizing zombies in mainstream can't read, Jesus.
There's got to be some irony in that, you being a voice actor and shit.
As well as repopularizing zombies in the mainstream popular culture from late 1990s onwards, along with House of the Dead. Leading the renowned interest in zombie films during the 2000s, Resident Evil is Capcom's best-selling video game franchise with over 95 million sold worldwide by 2019. The Resident Evil films are also the highest-grossing film series based on video games.
That last part still hurts my soul on some level. Highest-grossing video game. Wait, technically Fast and Furious is a video game series and a movie series.
But it's not based on a video game.
Damn you, technicality. Okay, well, to go into more details as far as the early games, or the era that spawned a million sales and more. When Resident Evil first came out, character animations were blocky as balls. Everything was some form of a square, and if you're lucky, you may look like a triangle. And round objects were practically unheard of. Basically, if you take a hot dog and chop off the round ends, that's pretty much how almost all the graphics looked. The ability to be emotive and expressive was practically non-existent. So, to be honest, it wasn't actually easy to scare somebody with those graphics. However, tensions could be raised very easily with very, very minor tricks that work for human beings in general, like going in a room that all the music cuts off from, and all you hear is one sound, and you don't know if it's getting further or closer away. Hey, that'll scare me to fuck any day. For those who don't know, I live very, very close to a place called Marquette Park. It's about a mile and a half, if not a little bit more, of park-like area. They made sure it gives you off a little bit of a forest vibe or a woodland area vibe, because they don't even have lights that they keep on 24/7 at night. And since cars can't really drive through after, I believe, 9 o'clock at night, if you go through Marquette Park, it's quiet. You ain't gonna hear no music. Might not even be no cars around. And you could lose your mind just because you heard a branch snap. So it's not like it can't work. However, the tank controls was the major issue I had back then. That made me not want to mess with it, because that would get me killed more than player incompetence. And with any video game or any video gamer will tell you, it's a completely different sensation than you lost because you're having a difficult fight versus you lost because the game fucked you over while you're trying to move around. Mind you, I'm like 7 or 8 when I first get my hands on a Resident Evil game. To be fair, I would not let a 7 or 8-year-old touch a current Resident Evil game as a starting game. But I'll give them the old ones just because, I'm sorry, it's really hard for me to be scared by wooden carving characters dying and shit. Also, the hilariously terrible and notoriously terrible voice acting, not really gonna scare somebody. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty much all I got for the early games. If you want to buy them, I can honestly recommend going for their remakes. The remakes actually give you the option to turn the tank controls on and off when it comes to Resident Evil 1. However, Resident Evil 2 remake, which is more recent and came out in the year 2019, well, that one, man, holy shit. That's a very, very fun and good game. However, if you don't have any experience with the genre, it might not be the best place to start because it's very common for new people to not understand the concept of bullet sponge zombies. And no matter what difficulty you are on, the zombies can easily become bullet sponges just due to the fact that even after they die, there's not going to be something that lets you know they're going to stop moving. So you may waste an extra 1 or 2 bullets on one zombie just to make sure it's dead, aka the notorious double tap. But see, here's the thing about the double tap. How many double taps can you do before you run out of ammo? And that's where some of the fun and some of the most intense moments can happen in the game. You know you low on ammo, there's 5-6 zombies in your face, and you know you got somebody who you can't necessarily kill chasing you throughout the entire game. If you want to baby step your way into it, I recommend the PC version of the Resident Evil 1 remake, or just because mods are fun and you can put more people in the game than was intended. Or you can go and get it on a console. The game is pretty cheap. I believe it's always on sale, but the average MSRP is somewhere around $19.99 USD or $20 USD. I don't know how that works for the rest of you guys. Sorry, we are lowly North Americans. Now, moving on from the initial 3 numbered titles, in the segment 2, when did Fan Division start? I don't know if you were there for it, but from what it sounds like, you came at the end of it. But I don't know if you were made aware, but as fun as Resident Evil 5 was, and somewhat a 4, did you know that those 2 games really are the ones that started the Fan Division?
I heard something about it because of the way the games play, right? Those are like the start of the action games, and people wanted more of the survival horror stuff.
Okay, so you're not wrong. The tempo for Resident Evil 4 and the tempo for Resident Evil 5 is in a very unique spot. 4 is still considered to be better than 5, but 5 has more replay value and is considered more fun. But 4 is considered to be a classic, a legend and a classic, and is considered one of the best video games of all time in many reviewing circles and among many fans, not just of Resident Evil games, but of good games in general. Now, see, here's the thing about Resident Evil 4. Did you beat or play that one, by the way?
4?
Yeah.
I beat it.
Okay. 4 got the closest in the modern era, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's, to getting that balance between action and stressful, dangerous, fearful situation. Let me tell you, when you first play that game, the zombies are smarter than they've ever been. Unless they're like a final boss or a regular boss in the other older games. But the zombies are extremely smarter. In fact, they can verbally communicate with each other. They don't just acknowledge each other's existence and get in each other's way. They actually can work together. That's a frightening ordeal. Then we learned later on, they can break down window and door barricades you put up. In fact, most of these things are taught to you within the first hour of the game. Light spoilers. So, you know, if you care about a spoiler for an old ass game that everyone and their mom is playing and still plays, you know, skip forward to when you hear me say the word mango sauce. I don't know why I thought of mango sauce. Mango sauce has nothing to do with zombies. But the two people that drove Leon Kennedy, because he's the star of Resident Evil 4, who drove Leon Kennedy into the village or town where he was searching for the president's daughter. Still not sure why the fuck Leon is searching for the president's daughter alone. Are dead, and they're on 2 meat hooks being literally set on fire. Their corpses being set on fire in the middle of a town square in a small village. And the minute they see you, they're going to come at you relentlessly. So the only thing you can do is try to barricade yourself in various rooms or houses in that area. Pray you don't get into a situation where you can't get towards a door or an exit. And then just run around and try to avoid them. Shoot who you can, who you can't. Duck and dodge. Up until the game decides, based on, I believe, how many people die. Or a set counter. A set timer that we don't see and aren't told about. They just stop and leave you the fuck alone. That's the opening to the game. No Resident Evil has opened up like that since. That alone, to me, let alone other people, was a giant what the fuck moment. Mango sauce. So, when that game starts off, it's obvious that Leon is a little bit more calm than he was, but it makes more sense. Leon has had to deal with undead situations courtesy of the military not the military, the US government for, at this point, close to 10 years or maybe a little bit less. Because remember, most of the situations in Resident Evil happen, they give you a real-time year and date that it starts, and that's about it. So Leon being scared of everything and running around wasting ammo like a little chicken shit wouldn't make sense. And from that point on, the first thing you learn is that nothing you do isn't known about or monitored, or the bad guys that you fight, the Salazars, have every single intent on watching you, monitoring you, or trying to get you killed. You went from being a minor annoyance that they thought they couldn't mess with to, oh shit, he may unravel our plans. All the while, other shit happens in the background. You know, Ada Wong shows up, who's always been a secret agent in the Resident Evil series. She won't tell you what she's doing there. You meet old friends who become enemies that we didn't even know was even in the game, but hey, that's how you know these characters live a life outside of the games. One of the main villains or reoccurring villains of the game is a guy by the name of Krauser, but Krauser, who knows Leon, has never appeared in any other game before Resident Evil 4. But they speak as if they're familiar with each other, you know? So, yeah, and I like that. Mind you, I'm at the mind says, oh wow, I got to go back and play some of the old games, see who this Krauser guy is. I don't know this at the time, but it found a way to build new interests for old fans and new fans alike. However, when you get to about the halfway point of basically, okay, you have Ashley, now you just need to literally get the hell out of Dodge and go back to America. Fuck yeah. The game's action levels spike dramatically. But if you stop and think about it, that's normal affair for Resident Evil at this point. Or really just any game. Listen, when you play a game the first time, your enemies can never surprise you more than the first time you fight them. So if I'm playing a game where I'm dealing with smart zombies, smart bugs that can turn invisible, fucking hate those guys by the way, and the occasional giant boss creature or small humanoid boss creature, how long until I'm not going to be scared anymore? Or how long until the only threat I face is, did I spend too many bullets on that one guy? Or that other guy? Or this boss that can do an instant kill? It made sense. There was a natural progression to it. Once you get on that boat, where Ada drops you off on that secondary peninsula little mini island, where it's full of a military armada, or some people who just, it's not really explained, but some like mercenary group that was stationed on some little small island next to the place in Spain that you were in. Yeah. Everything from that point on, you're basically playing an action game. But it makes sense. Nothing is left in the game that they've made that can scare you. So the only choice they have left is one of two things: a jump scare, or introduce an enemy that can do an instant kill or kill you really quickly and easily. Well, they did that. I think they're called JJs, but they're the giant fat guys that have the giant miniguns with the whole fucking tank of ammo. Fuck, I was scared of those dudes. They can't take damage from behind. Of course, I learned later on that you pop their ass in the legs, but you get my point. Everyone there has a gun or a knife. They're not just coming at you with their bare hands trying to bite you, or a bullshit ass rake. I wish I would get killed by a rake in a Resident Evil game. I'll stop playing video games forever if I get killed by a fucking rake. And it just made sense. Your skills have been tested. The scariness, or most of it, is behind you. Now, we just need to make sure that we can up the difficulty so you don't lose interest and we can kill you. So, that's where a lot of people had an issue, because they said, man, only half of that game is fun. Once you get past such and such and such and such, it feels like I'm playing a little action movie. Well, see, here's the thing, though. And this is where the division starts, and this is where people like you come in, Corey. Resident Evil 5 was advertised like no other Resident Evil before it. There was merchandise made way, way, way ahead of the game even being out. There was so much shit happening, from replicas to DLC, most of which was already there, but they fucking cut it out before they released it. But we're not going to get into that. We're not here for that technically. Eventually, though. And what ends up happening is different people make Resident Evil 4, because unfortunately, this is when Capcom was really fucking up with the people that worked for them. So between 2003 to 2009, they were constantly losing people who were working for or under them, whether they performed extremely well or not. Shinji Mikami was among their number. Now here's the weird one. Nobody knows at that point what happened to Tokuro Fujiwara. I can barely even find any hits to his name when it comes to anything about video games other than Ghosts and Goblins. But they keep forgetting he created Resident Evil right along with Shinji Mikami. So the only conclusion I can draw, and please, if someone hears this and they can find out what he's doing, I'd love to talk to him, because I feel like he's one of the only Resident Evil people who no one ever brings up in a conversation, or the internet doesn't know exists. Tokuro Fujiwara. He left along with Hideki Kamiya, aka the creator of Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. Yes, they have the same daddy. And some others to form at the time Platinum Game Studio. Right? So that team assumed that the primary reason Resident Evil 4 sold so well was for the elements that were similar to the later end of the game. You know, something akin to a Hollywood action movie. And in fact, that term gets brought up a lot, not even by Americans, but by the Japanese when they start making the later games, which annoys the fuck out of me, because do you understand what your job is? But, you know, I don't want to get too far into that. The thing about being a critique versus just spitting venom and negativity is a very, very thin line. So I'm trying to stay on that critique side, not personal feeling side. But because of that, from the ground up, Resident Evil 5 was structured to constantly be able to try to provide a challenge. And since the game was real-time co-op or AI co-op, no matter what happens, the first thing you got to learn is that there has to be a higher zombie count. And the zombies have to be even smarter. Because there's two people you can't fuck over. If a zombie shows up, they attack one person, the other person can stand right next to them and just pop them because they weren't paying attention. Or, if a zombie grabs somebody, they don't even got to waste ammo. They can press one button that leads into a team attack that can destroy almost any zombie. So in some cases, it may be better to be grabbed by a zombie than to even shoot one, because a grab can almost guarantee, if you and your partner faster, a death of a lower enemy. It was weird. But that's where the fan deviation started. But here's the thing about that. Including the mercenaries mode, which is also cooperative. Some of the modes are 4-player, some of them are 2-player. The level of the fun factor for this game dramatically increased. So now people are saying it feels more like, oh, I'm playing an arcade shooter. And also that game was, if memory serves, shorter than every other Resident Evil that came before it. But to be fair, you know how it is with video games. The gameplay length time, I don't even know who calculates them, but the game companies shoot for a set amount of hours per playthrough for the user to play. But that doesn't mean that the user doesn't fluke into finding massive time savers. I'm not saying a super play, but I'm saying in general, that's what happens. So imagine being a regular traditional Resident Evil fan. Like you even watch horror movies on the regular. You saw the Resident Evil 1 alone in a mansion that's designed to kill people, and one of the people you brought is backstabbing you. Resident Evil 2, alone in a city where everyone else is pretty much turned into a zombie or is on fire while being chased by somebody you can't really kill. Same situation for 3, because those two games overlap with each other, but it's one person, not two. Or no, it's still two people. And then you go to Resident Evil 4, which spent so much over 4 years in production, 2 of which were in production hell. And they find that balance of, man, this is scary, and oh shit, got real quick. And then here's Resident Evil 5, and the first boss fight, if you can call it that, you have, isn't even a boss fight. It's 30 to 40 zombies and a mini boss that can potentially do an instant KO all in one area right when you first start. Not to mention being chased by a horde of zombies, I think like 20 or 30 of them, just to run from them and hide in a door, behind a metal door, which I'm not sure how that metal door got there, but hey, it is what it is. Look, I get it. I really do. Technically, I came in on 4, so I should be leaning towards the man 5 and 6 are the shit, blah, 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 blah situation. But I'm not. And my heart goes out to you because I know what it's like to watch a franchise or something you play and something you like get horribly misconstrued and warped to where it's unrecognizable. And the only reason it happens is because somebody's not paying attention in corporate, or corporate's putting on people who don't understand what made something special. I love you, Sonic, even though Sega doesn't. But that's the best example or analogy I can give. Because if you're a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, you're truly a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, you know how you get fucked over and how 50-50 it is. It got to the point where we gave it a name. You ever heard of the Sonic Cycle, Corey?
No.
Okay, so this is how it works. Someone makes a Sonic game that is good and understands how a Sonic game should be structured. And then the very next game is not anywhere near as good, or it may not even be, super bad, but it's not fun. And the game right after that is complete and total hot shit garbage. But the next game after that is the bomb. It's almost like the second coming of Jesus. And then you get shit on right all over again. For a while, it kind of looked like Resident Evil was going through some type of a cycle. Now, I know we've only been talking about the numbered titles, but rest assured, yes, we have played, or at least I have played, the side story titles that, happen at the same time as other stories, before other stories, after other stories, in between other stories, blah, blah, blah. And the games that don't follow any true story, but they just feature the characters. Okay? But those ones don't really affect the franchise's image as much as numbered titles do. And, some few exceptions like Code Veronica. because that one was really, really good. And that's still the only one where you get Chris and Claire at the same time, and it's canon. Every other
His name, Steve.
Steve Burnside.
Yeah.
Or Steve Irons. What about him?
Whatever his name is. Yeah, he's an interesting character.
I was like, okay, you want the opposite of Leon. All right, well, here you go. And then they just said, fuck it after that. That's me being comical about it, but I don't understand the logic. I would love to hear the origin story of Steve Burnside one day. Not his looks, but everything else around him. But I digress. That's when the fan deviation started. Because when you got to 5, it became a co-op game, and it was about teamwork. That's cool. I like that. Your odds of surviving a horrible event increase because here's your homie who can help you out. But now we got this situation where they've almost removed the ability to be scared of anything. What really scared me was the giant Africans who, by the way, ain't nobody running around like that in fucking Africa. I'm a little bit disgusted about that interpretation. However, we're talking about Japanese people. How often does Japan have anything directly translated in Japanese that explains anything about Northern, Western, or Eastern African culture? Okay, so fucking see, I'm trying not to say Resident Evil 5 is garbage, but I'm also trying to make people understand, especially if you're new to the series, that Resident Evil 5 as a whole is a very disturbing and uniquely successful entry. So Resident Evil 5 changed up the entire inventory system. There was also no direct way to buy and upgrade your equipment in game. At the start of each mission, you got a loading screen with the menu of buying healing items, buying weapon upgrades, or possibly even buying a new weapon until you just don't. It's made no sense and it has no explanation to this day. However, that's the type of thing that makes people view this game as more of a arcade type game, because everything you could need to get or possibly want or pay for before the next stage is provided for you in this handy little menu. It does seem a little bit like Devil May Cry, but in Devil May Cry's defense, you have to go to a special spot or a special entity which doesn't have a direct explanation that handles your attack, weapon, and item modifications. The being that exists outside of time or something like that. I forgot what it's called, if it even has a true name. Ain't no shit like that in Resident Evil, which is supposed to be based off or supposed to, mimic real world situations. So the first thing you get told in the earliest in the game, mango sauce, because Resident Evil 5, light spoiler, like in the first fucking stage. Chris asked for backup. Chris Redfield asked for backup because they got blindsided and all the locals were hostile. He got told, you ain't getting backup. Your mission stands. Continue forward. And he wouldn't be getting any secondary support as in the way of people. So they were trying to go to their next, a small base that BSA had out there and, get some supplies and possibly some more people that way. So how is it when I beat the stage, the first thing I see after seeing this shit is, hey, you want to buy an upgrade for this weapon, increase the power, the accuracy? Who is doing all this shit? Normally, I can let that go as video games logic, but they specifically established that these characters do not just willfully get upgrades. They have to come from someplace, and every game before and every game after it. The exception being 6, because 6 had no upgrade system for the weapons. When you got a weapon, you just got a weapon. Personally, I kind of prefer that one more. But, it was a weird situation and never got addressed. I'll leave that at that. But because of stuff like that and Mercenaries mode being so fun and nothing in Mercenaries mode being scary, because Mercenaries mode for the uninitiated is basically, hey, kill as many zombies as you can before the timer runs out. That's it. That shit is fun. If you turn on Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries mode right now, and it's just me and you, I can tell you right now, I could lose 8 hours on that shit. Like I went to a full day of work. It's just fun. If your brother asked you to play Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries mode right now, wouldn't you be down?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. And then your parents will tell you turn that shit off and go to bed. You motherfuckers aren't kids anymore and you got work in the morning. And give me some rent money. So that's where the issue with 5 comes in. But also, that's when we start getting issues within Capcom internally. Well, let's be honest, Capcom internally has had issues for close to 20 years at this point. But again, we're not here to get into that shit. See, here's the thing. Resident Evil 5 in Capcom's eyes, or some people who worked in Capcom's eyes as, they almost viewed it as, this is the direction that the franchise needs to go in the future. So that means that anything going forward is going to inherently function with a different aesthetic. And that's when they ran into their first bit of trouble. Well, no, that's when the trouble got worse and it started snowballing. Resident Evil 6, besides being a buggy mess to the point where some people couldn't actually play the game without getting the day one patch, and I know because, shit, my friends were one of them. They literally bought the game. We were going to have a big old party. Well, not really a party, just a bunch of us was crashing in one person's place, and we was just going to play Resident Evil in like 2 setups or 3 setups, right? Only one setup worked, and it was the one that got the day one patch. Like, we would have trouble getting the game to load past opening cutscenes and shit. It was crazy. And we played the game, and we realized real quickly that, first off, if you're not playing Leon Kennedy, almost none of this game is even remotely scary. Save for the snake that can turn invisible in Chris's playthrough. Also, holy shit. Oh yeah, I should say mango sauce again. Mango sauce. Sorry, forgot. Anyways, that snake was scary just because they did such a good job at making him translucent and transparent. Like, if you don't see a wrinkle from when it turns or slob from its mouth, you don't know that snake is practically there. And it kept killing people during that boss fight. The more you tried to hunt it down. You started with like 7 people. But by the time you kill that snake, he done ate 6. In their full kit and body armor. Now, one of the other things is the fact that they did multiple story segments. I think that they thought that Resident Evil needed to be shorter, which is why everything after 4, the natural gameplay time was shorter. Now, obviously, the gameplay is short in general, but here's the thing. Again, you got to think about first-time players, not the person who played and know where everything is and is going through their 13th billionth time. You know, those guys, they can finish the whole game in 7-8 hours. Pretty much all of the Resident Evil games in 7-8 hours, really. But specifically, fucking every single storyline in that game, except for maybe Ada, because Ada has a little bit of stealth in it, their entire storylines could be done in about 5 hours. And I mean, that's if you're running everywhere. You know, you don't stop to kill a zombie, you just shoot them till they get out of your way. That type of situation. The stage hazards ain't worth shit. There really aren't any stage hazards. And if there is, they're limited to maybe 2 or 3 stages out of the whole entire game. The game's pacing is absolutely nightmarish. But also that's dependent on which story modes you played before and after one another. Now, they did give a recommended playing order for the events, but the problem is that it's fucking stupid. And I don't mean that from a personal opinion perspective. I mean it's fucking stupid because they could have just made it so the game goes in order automatically switching between the people. Stage 1, this people, and then stage 1 through 8, hey, here's their story. Everything after stage 8, oh, it's everybody else's story. Everything after that, hey, here's everybody else's story, you know? But they didn't. The marketing, and even in their interviews, they mentioned that they wanted to expand the audience of Resident Evil 6. And they didn't just mean the type of players, they meant like the appeal of Resident Evil as a franchise. The problem is, it's supposed to be horror. You're known for scaring the shit out of people. And to be fair, most of the enemies, they ain't really all that scary, but they still ugly as hell. And this game is the equivalent of a rated R movie, regardless. So, first thing I'm telling you is that your whole approach to the situation is wrong. Because the people you want to target, they don't go looking for Resident Evil games. So really what's happening is you're pulling in new people, and old people get disappointed. Yes, there are some people that like old and new Resident Evil. There's nothing wrong. Well, depending on the game, there's nothing wrong with that. But my whole point is that that's where the deviation started. Now, I'm going to ask you first before I give my answer. Corey, do you think the deviation that they created with Resident Evil like 4 through 6 was worth it in the long run as far as a franchise is concerned? Because we ain't heard from you in a while.
We wouldn't have gotten 7 the way it was if we didn't get those games.
Probably.
That's a tough question.
Okay. Do you need more time, or is that all you got?
The thing is, I didn't play 6, and I know 6 is like a really controversial, you know, like everything you said. To me, I really like RE7, so part of it is, to me, is I think it was worth it. It's a little cynical, I think, maybe. But I guess it was worth it. I mean, they've been turning it around. Like, we wouldn't have, I think, like, the RE2 remake that we have today, or we're getting, you know, 3 the way that it is today, because I think they needed that to learn, but I do feel bad for the consumers that did not like those games. I don't know. I think to me it was worth it, because we wouldn't have the games that we have today without going through those. That's maybe not the best answer to give, but I feel like that's what I want to say.
Okay, well, for me, I say it's not worth it. And I'm going to tell you why. Remember, we've only been talking about the numbered Resident Evil titles so far, but this is a franchise discussion. So, let me just say this. There is no mold you can't conform Resident Evil into. The characters have even been in fighting games, for God's sakes. And not Mortal Kombat, which, first off, that's like the one place you think you would see a Resident Evil character in a Mortal Kombat game. How the fuck has that not happened? But, you know, musings aside. Yo. The Resident Evil franchise has had characters in puzzle games, fighting games, third-person shooters, online shooters, horror games, and I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, action games like with Resident Evil 3D, the Mercenaries. By the way, that game really needs to be on another system besides the 3DS. Don't get me wrong, that game is the shit on the 3DS. The problem is that that's what they should have spanned off. That's what they should have made a franchise around. A game that's nothing but Mercenaries mode and you can play all the characters you ever liked. Fuck yes. It was fun. I'm sad.
How much did they charge for it?
I don't know. The shit's like 5 years old.
But I was thinking, like, if they were to continue it today, I would try to keep it to like $20. That's just my personal.
Well, see, yeah, and then, you know, charge everybody an arm, a leg, and a ball sack for character DLC or cosmetics. You know, I wouldn't even be mad at that because the base game is the shit. And that's really what's important. You want to get DLC money, make your base game the shit. Gambling is the real issue, but again, another story. So I'll say it's not worth it because they could have literally easily just done all of this shit. All of this shit in a side story, and no one would have even blinked or battered an eye. It would have just been, oh, is this any good? Well, yeah, just don't expect it to be scary. It's got a lot of action. The characters are more, move more human-like, and they can actually, you know, cling the walls and shit real easy. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll pick this up. If Resident Evil 6 was Resident Evil Revelations, and if Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2, you know, with a higher budget, was Resident Evil 5 and 6 or 6 and 7, dude, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. They knew that they could put this shit in any blender and it would mix, and they decided not to. They gave it the prestigious numbered title, and they did what they did. So that's why I say it's not worth it, because they could have gotten their cake and eaten it too. Except for that Resident Evil Online shooter. Oh my God, is that terrible. What's it called? Umbrella Corps. Don't touch that game. Do not touch that game. I think before that... Yeah, fuck no. I think, what did I do? Oh yeah, I had the 14-day free trial or something, or one of my friends had on their Steam. Within 24 hours, that thing got 40 to 30% negative reviews. And it wasn't just, oh, we hate it because it's not horror games anymore. No, it was because the game sucked.
I remember hearing all about it.
They literally advertised it to no end for 2 years. No, not 2 years, for a full year. And then after the game came out, you didn't see no advertisements and a price cut a week later. They want to burn it out of their mind. Much like the Resident Evil Gun Survivor games, but I didn't forget how shitty they were. Neither did Angry Video Game Nerd, but yeah, again, that's another story. Shout out to Angry Video Game Nerd, by the way. He one of the old fogies of video gaming, or at least video gaming on YouTube, so I gotta hand it to you, man. His quality is consistent, much like his turds. Anyways. All right, so on to the next segment. Which do you think are the best games to play in the franchise for someone coming in, and why?
I think, well, 7's my favorite. I really like 7 a lot. If people like games like Outlast, and this is a really bad comparison, I think, to make.
Yes, it is.
If you wish you had the option to protect yourself in Outlast, you would like RE7. But RE7, I think, is just a really good, like, horror game in a way. Like, give me a moment. I need to process my thoughts.
You've not been talking for a solid 30 minutes and you still can't think up shit? That's actually kind of funny. I don't know why I'm laughing.
I think the progression of RE7 is a lot of fun. Like, well, not a lot of fun. Like, why can't I think of the right way to say this? It's very reminiscent of the old games in a way. Like, you start off with just like, you start very weak, and then by the end, you're powerful. You don't buy ammunitions. You upgrade yourself, which is kind of, that started in like 3, right? Where you can upgrade the handguns and stuff. Is that where that started?
Kind of 3, kind of 2. Basically, you know, you could change and mess around with the gunpowder, modify the guns, but it's not like you made a new gun from scratch and shit.
7's kind of just like a mix of like what I thought was the best of all the RE games, but in first person now. The progression I thought was really good. You know, you move from one house to the other, and then the game kind of just gets a little bit linear, and I kind of like that. Like when you have like you can move around a little bit, but then when the story kind of like needs to go in a certain
The word you're looking for is bottleneck.
Bottleneck? I kind of like bottlenecking a little bit. That sounds really terrible, I think, to say. But
well, not in a video game. In fact, it makes sense. I'm going to give you the freedom to go around and do whatever you feel like doing. However, the story needs to progress. So every so often, you just going to do what I'm going to tell you, then you can go back to your freedom. That type of thing.
Yeah. I liked all the family members are really interesting. They all represent different kind of like themes of horror. Like the dad is kind of like a Jason.
The dad is Mr. X.
The dad. Well, for like only one level, they can all technically be Mr. X. Well, okay, the mom and the dad can be Mr. X in a way because I mean they're chasing you around the whole time looking for you.
Exactly, and dad can walk through walls, which is weird because he doesn't like phase through them like a superpower. I mean, he just keeps walking, and the wall says, "Hey, fuck it, I'm getting out his way."
Man, it was just so scary. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's my favorite one. I think it was done really well. I think that in my personal opinion, I think that's the best one. I like RE4, but part of it just, I feel like to me it feels like it's aged a little bit, but it's still. I mean, it's still like a really good game, but to me it feels a little off. I would say if anybody should play the games, I think they should be playing like 7 for. The remake of 2. 2 remake is fantastic. Don't beat it 4 times. It's not worth it.
What the fuck? You just said the game is a shit, then you just said don't beat it 4 times? What?
If you play through it like twice, I mean, if you do the A run and then the B run, I mean, I'm just saying like don't do every single run of the game because it's not worth it because the story. There's no different endings, kind of like in the original 2, where you have like.
That needs to be clarified because that was one of the things that I thought was fucking dumb. But Resident Evil 2 Remake doesn't necessarily have multiple endings so much as it has alternate boss fight situations based on which story route you go through. So they devalued their own story route system, which is a weird thing to do.
But the story in that game doesn't make much sense at all.
Nope.
If the latter half of that game does not make sense. There is one situation in particular that doesn't make sense for any of the characters. Well, it's mainly one character that doesn't.
Just say mango sauce and then talk about it.
Mango sauce.
Okay.
The mom does not. She shouldn't be able to be in like 2 places at the same time, and Claire and Leon should not be able to both fight. What's his name? What's the dad? What's the dad's name?
I don't know, but I'll just call him G-Virus guy. I can't think of his name right now.
G-Virus guy.
Oh, William Birkin. William Birkin. Sorry.
Birkin, you're good. Don't be sorry. I'm goofing up over here. I'm stumbling over my words. Birkin. They shouldn't have both been able to fight Birkin. It doesn't make sense, story-wise. Like it's messy, and the mom, she dies early. And before you even, I think, meet Birkin. No, she died. Does she die after you kill Birkin or before you meet Birkin?
She dies. Story-wise, I know she dies after Birkin because Birkin just keeps on mutating. And Birkin doesn't die till technically the end of the game. So the time and place where she dies, it's weird, especially since different game playthroughs, different things happen.
It's a little confusing because of her character being in 2 different places and dying at different times. I just think that the game's ending half just doesn't make a lot of sense. That was my main problem and why I don't think it's worth it to play through like a billion times as well, on top of having only one true ending.
I'm going to just say this about 2 though. I didn't like the final cutscene ending. It felt stupid, like really stupid. And we're still under mango sauce terms. So Ashley just looks at Claire and Leon. So are you 2 my new mommy and daddy now? Bitch, you just saw your mom and dad, or heard your mom and dad fucking die horribly, as well as the city you grew up in. Everyone pretty much get exterminated, save for barely a dozen people. And the first thing out of your mouth is, are you my new mommy and daddy now? Did anyone else notice she didn't even cry or scream the whole fucking game? The fuck was that?
Well, when the mom died, she cried.
That was it though. And then what happens the minute she get off the train? So are you my new mommy and daddy? No, you don't just forget your fucking mom and dad like that. Period. If they raised you and loved you, oh, they're going to, hey, you're my new mommy and daddy, right? Nah. Who the fuck talks like that?
it's the good ending in the original RE2, right? That's pretty much what it is. It's just it's a very 90s Resident Evil ending.
So true. Mango sauce.
Right, mango sauce. Yeah, I'd say play the second remake, 7 and 4. And if you want to have a really fun co-op experience, I think 5 is a fun game. I think RE1 is fun. I haven't beaten it. I got very far into it. I can't, I should be able to say this.
Bro, just go for the remake. Go for the remake of 1. Don't make yourself suffer. Don't make yourself suffer. Tank controls are the devil.
HD remake of 1.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're the best ones.
Okay, now as far as me, in no particular order, because, shit, half of them ain't got a number. If you got a 3DS and you just want mindless violence and you don't want to have to worry about, high-end graphic stuff, and get Resident Evil 3D The Mercenaries, or Resident Evil The Mercenaries, the dumbest title organization I've seen, 3D, because all you do is get loaded into a room with you and a buddy and you kill zombies. But you could unlock new special moves and you can change people's weapon loadouts and give your character special abilities or modifications, not just the gun. They've never done that before. Normally when there's a modification, it's only the weapon, whether it's a spin-off or a franchise, half the time, barring some rare exceptions. And that game is insanely fun. It really is. Resident Evil 4, because it is a legendary, iconic classic. In fact, after the game came out, over a dozen different games tried to mimic its playstyle. Not even the same genre, but just the playstyle of it. If you want to experience what it's like to get almost a perfect balance between, something scaring you and, oh, I'm about to Rambo every bitch in this motherfucker, you go get yourself some Resident Evil 4 with a side of sprinkles. Preferably strawberry sprinkles. I don't see a lot of strawberry sprinkles anymore. Anyways. Now, for you newer fans, 6. And I say that reluctantly. If you're the people who just want mindless action again, 6 is going to be fun for you. Don't even care about the story mode. Take your ass to mercenary mode. You shoot zombies with a time limit. You do good. You unlock new characters that have new weapon loadouts. And you can increase your reflexes, and it's still really, really fun in co-op. But unlike 5 and 4, you can move and shoot. You can also duck and dodge. Here's the weird part. You could duck and dodge in Resident Evil 3. But they don't bring back duck and dodge until Resident Evil fucking 6. This is what I mean about sometimes they get people who don't even remember how shit used to work. You got the ability to dodge shit only in a select few games. Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Revelations 1, Resident Evil Revelations 2, Resident Evil 6. Mind you, those aren't in chronological order. It's the chronological would be 3, 6, then Revelations 1 and Revelations 2. It's fucking weird, man. How do you forget dodging is important for close to a fucking decade? The fuck? But that's a personal gripe, but also a logic hole in and of itself I don't want to get into. And as far as the Revelation games, I recommend Revelations for people who are still trying to find that balance of the golden sweet spot of Resident Evil 4. Because Revelations, even though the story is extremely dumb, its natural pacing and the way the enemies are presented and how you get into fights is fun. The only thing that you might have an issue with is its attempt at mercenaries mode is more like a mission trial mode. And also the graphics are just scaled up Nintendo 3DS graphics. But that doesn't mean the game isn't fun. It was fun on the 3DS. Also, these games have been re-released. The entire Resident Evil collection, starting from Resident Evil 4 onwards, has been re-released, minus 2 sucky exceptions on the Nintendo Switch. So Hey, these games aren't hard to find, and you're not paying for retail. Who knows? You might have fun. Go for them. All right, moving on. Do you think the image of Resident Evil as a franchise can be fixed, or rather, can fan respect and unification return or last in the series based on how many different directions the shit goes in nowadays? Corey. Talking to you.
I know. I'm just having an off day.
The irony being it's your actual off day.
I thought with 7, I felt like the image was kind of fixed a little bit. I feel like we've been going in the right direction so far. You know?
In other words, hey, as long as they keep doing what they currently been doing, you think everything's gonna be a-okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I have the exact opposite opinion. Okay, so long story short, because I want to wrap this up soon. Hey, look, Capcom. I know you're not gonna listen to this. I know no one who probably ever even worked for your company is gonna listen to this. But look, when you make a franchise that has one goal and one objective, and then you change that, people don't have to care about it anymore. You got lucky coming back from the heinous mess of Resident Evil 6. But to be fair, a lot of the side stories in low budget Resident Evil games, they didn't drop quality. So it's not like the brand doesn't have some value still. But when you get to 7 is when I get aggravated, because much like what I'm hearing with 8, there is absolutely no fucking reason 7 needed to be first person's perspective. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have happened. I'm saying, why can't we get both? Why can't I press one button, or is in the beginning of the game, if the game asks me, do you want to play the game in FPS or third person perspective? Now we're hearing these rumors from one of the most some of their most famous snitches that Resident Evil 8 got delayed because even though it was being worked on at the same time as Resident Evil 3 because of some success that happened with Resident Evil 2, that they decided to overhaul some built-in game mechanic or something like that for Resident Evil 8. We're also hearing that Ethan is back and Chris is more, more involved in the story, not just a DLC episode. Because Chris's whole situation doesn't even make sense and there's no explanation for it. Why would he go into a company called Umbrella Anything? Why does he have a gun named Albert that can kill zombies? Why would he want a gun named Albert? And the fact that he's a different person in voice, well, that's Capcom logic. But either way, there's a lot of unanswered questions in the Resident Evil world. Some get answered late, some get answered early, or some get answered in bullshit text message secret pages that you have to find or unlock, which I don't like that shit. I really don't. If you start a question, I want to get the answer in the next game, not a side story. Especially if you make it a hidden or a missable item or statement. What the fuck? All they really need to do, since they've somewhat backpedaled on the we want to appeal to a broader audience shit, all they need to do is what they were doing before. Make a good game and make it a little scary. If you're going to do first person, that's fine. Add third person in it. If you're going to do third person and you got first person people, that's fine. Add a first person mode. You don't even have to make us divide ourselves. But Capcom is one of the most unique gaming companies in the whole entire industry. The people who make the games oftentimes understand the fan base, but corporate don't give a shit. Corporate want to do what corporate want to do. And no matter how many developers say, hey, well, if Capcom thought they could get money, they re-release or make a new one. We know you guys want it. They just won't let us. I'm tired of hearing that. I've been hearing that for over a decade. Keywords: Darkstalkers are not dead. You know how long I've been hearing that? I've been hearing Darkstalkers are not dead since fucking like 2010. 2010. They used to have a comic in 2008. Then it went into hiatus. It didn't come out of hiatus until 2018. Did you know that?
No.
the left hand doesn't know what the right is doing. Yes, they have highly marketable characters, highly franchisable characters, but when you don't take care of them, or when you selectively cherry pick what you do and don't care about, you end up in situations like this. I don't think they're going to stop doing that, though. I think we're going to keep this division. I think one day they're going to try to make a Call of Duty type Resident Evil game again. Or they're going to make some type of microtransaction gambling field game again for some franchise or character. And it's going to leave Japan shores. And no one's going to know what to do. They're already trying to revive Onimusha. I want them to revive Chaos Legion. They don't even have to call it Chaos Legion, since technically they don't own the rights to Chaos Legion. No one cares. And plus, if they did make a new Chaos Legion game, I'm sure the dude who wrote Chaos Legion originally, the story, would lend out the license again. It's not like he hated them. But the problem isn't fans. The problem isn't developers. Well, sometimes the problem is developers. The biggest issue is Capcom, like many other corporations in gaming, aren't run by people that play video games. And as long as they can have more control, power, and say so than common sense or fan intuition and fan perspectives, we're always going to end up with a situation like this. However, I don't think it'll be as bad as the Sonic cycle. So yeah. That being said, Corey, let me ask you, if someone asks you, should they get into Resident Evil, what would you tell them?
Depends if they like horror games.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, I mean, if they like horror games, I would recommend Resident Evil. I mean, I think they should look up which ones they should play first. You know, we gave some recommendations. You know, depends on the kind of game they want to play. Do they prefer third person? Do they prefer over the camera angled ones of like the old games, or the third person ones? I mean, I recommend the series. I mean, as like messy as it's each game, as the development has been. Well, that little moment of time that was messy. I mean, I'd recommend Resident Evil. They're just fun, dumb games to play. I think, you know, I'd recommend them to.
Okay, interesting. I'm not gonna say what I would do. All right. Well, yeah, this has been a franchise review of Resident Evil. I will catch you guys when I catch you guys. Enjoy the mango sauce.